Okay, we'll start with a pledge of allegiance.
Thank you. That was a nice conversation.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. I think we have a full house.
We do, sir.
How about that? Okay. I would like to welcome our newest board member, Cindy Clark. She's from Hiram. Welcome, Cindy.
Thank you. Thank you.
And we'll start with consideration to approve the proposed agenda for the November 6, 2019 Board of Directors meeting. So moved by John, seconded by Jolene. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Consideration to approve the minutes of the October 2nd, October 16th, and October 22nd Board of Directors meeting. So moved by Diane, seconded by Jackie. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Business finance reports. Finance Committee report on November 6th meeting.
The Finance Committee met this morning at 10 o'clock, and if you notice the sheet that I just walked around and put on the table, we're in really good shape financially. We are a third of the way into our current budget year, and we have spent 33% of our money, so it matches pretty well. Debt service looks huge because we pay that only twice a year, and the payment that has just been made takes in the principal and some interest. There's a little bit of interest that gets paid in the spring. A little bit, a lot to me, but a little bit compared to these figures, so that's why it's not 100%, but it's a huge figure.
Any questions for Carol? Okay, curriculum reports. We'll start with the student report. Kyle, you're on, or Belle, you're on.
All right, good evening, everybody. Representatives are happy to report that the Day of Welcome organized by the Civil Rights Team at the high school was successful. The group recognized all possible identities and made it known to students that no matter one's ethnicity, sexuality, religion, etc., they're welcomed in our school. Along with the Day of Welcome, fall sports came to a recent end for teams at the high school. The girls' soccer team, who won their first game in the playoffs against Madison, subsequently lost to Monmouth Academy, finishing their season with a record of 8-2-4. Boys soccer also unfortunately had their season come to an end, losing to Trape Academy in a preliminary game with a final record of 3-7-4. Those are wins, losses, and ties. Cross country had a building season with 3 boys and 3 girls. Freshmen Charlie and Tony Valancourt both had strong seasons, showing promise for the building of a competitive girls team next year. Field hockey finished their season 3-11, and football ended their season 3-6. All the sports teams were glad to have the support of our fall cheerleaders and the community members who were able to come out and see them compete. The representatives to the board are also very excited to announce the substantial progress with regards to the mental health initiative mentioned in the last meeting. In collaboration with Mr. Wolf, Mrs. Rand, and our school counselor, Mr. Johnson, we were able to put up 2 cork boards in the high school with relevant mental health information. We're hoping to have a photo for you of these in the near future as we add information to them. And also on the agenda for us is the invitation of various speakers to the high school to talk to students about mental health and how rural students are impacted by mental health disorders. Also worth noting is that Mark Twain's Is He Dead will be performed next Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, November 14th to the 17th at the middle school cafetorium. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday evening shows will be held at 7 p.m. and Saturday and Sunday matinees at 2 p.m.
Any questions for Belle? Thank you, Belle. Okay, curriculum coordinator, Sue Day.
Thanks. So we are continuing our substance abuse prevention committee that the curriculum committee has spearheaded. We'll be meeting on November 13th. I was sharing with curriculum chair Mrs. Perkins earlier that I'm super excited. You've heard us talk a lot about Prime for Life and a student reintegration program, and we were exploring that, and we found out there was going to be a training in Portland and one in Alaska, so we chose the one in Portland. And we were really excited that Healthy Oxford Hills is so impressed with Sacopee Valley and what we've been doing. They sponsored that, which was almost $1,000. So Mrs. Rand has been away at that training. It was very rigorous, but we're excited to be able to share that and move forward with supporting our students in that manner. We are doing a new book study called Permission to Feel. We have over 25 educators who are participating in that. And I've shared a couple of quotes in my report that have really resonated with us. So one was, research is clear that emotions determine whether academic content will be processed deeply and remembered. Sometimes we just want to think that students can come into our classrooms and just be ready to learn, and they are not. And so we have to keep finding ways to help them manage their emotions. We are also moving forward with our implementation of the ALICE safety protocols. So we're meeting with all of our classroom teachers. Our school resource officers and principals have been visiting each of our classrooms to talk with teachers about the specifics of their classrooms and the ways we could keep them and children safe if there were to be an incident. So we're continuing to work on that. We are excited about piloting the PSAT. So the sophomores took it a few weeks ago. That's something I think Mr. Wolf mentioned in our State of the Schools. We're looking at transitioning maybe to the PSAT as a measure of student achievement versus the NWEA at the high school. I'm excited to say we've finally filled all of our pre-K slots, and we actually now have a waiting list. So we have one family on the wait list, so we hope that maybe something will change. And I wanted to thank Mrs. Kerrigan for bringing down some student artwork on our front bulletin board there. There's lots of different student work. So, and I heard from the other art teachers, we will have some new things to showcase each month, we hope. So trying to showcase lots of the talent that we have in Sacopee Valley. Thanks.
Any questions for Sue? Go ahead, Kyle.
Just wondering why the PSAT as opposed to the NWA?
So what we've noticed is we use the NWEA and we compare it to the national norm. And if you were to look at the national norm, it flatlines after the 8th grade year and for freshmen, and then it actually drops as sophomores. So they actually anticipate that sophomores score lower than they do as a freshman year. So the norm just doesn't give us as much information. And so we're piloting the idea of the PSAT 1 because research also shows us the more times you take the SAT, the better you do. So we think it might be a way to help students just naturally do a better job on the SAT to help them with their college aspirations, etc. So we're piloting it. It may not work out well, but that's our hope and something we're exploring. Thanks.
Any other questions for Sue?
No.
Sue?
Who is the author of Permission to Feel?
Mark Brackett, who is the head person at Yale University. He runs the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Go ahead.
My question is to go back to the finance report. Can we do it now, or do you want to do it later?
You have a finance question?
Yes.
Let's finish this and we'll go
Okay.
back. Okay. Any other questions for Sue Day? Okay. I'll take your question, Brad.
I'm looking at the fuel budget of $312,172. Is that diesel or is that heating oil? What are we fueling with that?
I believe that's a combination of bus diesel, oil, and propane, all fuels.
Okay, so I'm looking at the consumption. I'm assuming we're doing the fiscal year from August 1st on,
July 1,
July 1 on. So we got July, August, September, October.
yes.
4
correct.
months, and we've only consumed.
Very little fuel right now, so that picks up big time. We'll see a significant change come December, January, February.
Well, obviously, there were not bus routes going to.
January, August, we didn't use a lot of bus diesel, and we didn't barely put heating oil in the school until now. So I anticipate that spiking up dramatically as we move forward.
Okay, just curious. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Curriculum Committee report on October 9th meeting. Jolene?
Sandra Warden presented a detailed report on the special education enrollment. As of this date, 22 additional students have been enrolled throughout all the schools. Some have behavioral issues, some physical disabilities, some special transportation needs. A substitute educational technician has been added at the elementary school and the middle school. Ms. Warden identified the following challenges and some solutions. Special transportation. A monitor has been added to the van. Self-contained space. The music teacher requested to be moved to the Horizons building to dance and play loud music, and this opened an additional space for special education instruction. Supplies that are needed, locking cabinets and chairs with arms. The middle school behavior teacher is still a vacant position. We have 2 lead educational technicians working with our other special ed teachers to provide instruction and meet the needs of our students. Also, we're considering the need for additional ed techs, and there's a potential need for additional speech therapy time, especially in 2020-21. 14 of the speech classes are held in the self-contained classroom. Some additional supporting information. 4 of the self-contained students must be one-to-one. 3 of them are nonverbal, and 1 is wheelchair-bound with tube feedings. Physical therapy has been contracted for 5 students, and psychological evaluations have increased. State agency funding is reduced this year, but we are again billing Maine Care to offset the increasing costs.
Any questions for Jolene? Okay, on the facilities report, I know I worked my wife really hard today closing cabins, so she didn't have a chance to come up with the construction. Do you have anything to say?
Well, we're not going to meet in December. We're going to meet in January instead.
So you'll give the construction report in
I'll give it,
December?
yeah, I'll give it next week.
Do you have anything to say on
No, I
facilities?
think
Okay,
it's nothing that can't wait until December.
all right, then we'll move on to the superintendent's report.
That sounds great, and it should be very brief as well, just some appointments, resignations for TV, I know you have in front of you. Resignations, Kevin Black, middle school boys basketball, Stephanie Humphrey, assistant varsity softball. Appointments, Alex Doreden, ed tech at the middle school, Ben Murphy, middle school boys basketball, Laura Wing, ed tech at our elementary school, James Kenny, JV boys basketball coach, and Angela LaPointe, educational technician at our elementary school. Those are the resignations and appointments for the month.
Curiosity question.
Sure.
How come Kevin quits right at the beginning of a basketball season?
So
You got a replacement though.
yeah, so he resigned prior to the season starting.
Oh, okay. Maybe. Just curious.
That's it?
That's it, sir.
Okay, policy reports. Policy committee report on October 9th. The committee reviewed BEB, board member use of social media. The consensus was the policy was redundant, as other policies covered the substance of BEB. The following policy was reviewed and is recommended for a first read. JICC, student conduct on school buses. This is a revision to include school vans. So on the action items, number 1, consideration to approve the following policies as a first read. JICC, conduct on school buses.
So moved.
So moved by Judy, seconded by John. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Policies before the board for second read and adoption on November 6th. We have consideration to approve the following policies as a second read and adoption. BIA, new school board member orientation. B, KF-R, facilities use cost. And BDA, board organizational meeting.
So moved.
Moved by Judy, seconded by Jolene. Any discussion? Carol?
I had one question. Facility use cost. In that column, I think it was column D, it appeared that there was consideration to charge the Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, Sacopee rec, but is that at the discretion, considering the use of the building, or are they going to be charged to be in our building?
So we're talking about, so column B, Carol, is school-affiliated nonprofits such as the ones you just mentioned. There is no charge for column B groups. Column D is nonprofits involved in fundraising like snowmobile clubs, hunting clubs, etc. If nonprofits are going to use our school for fundraising, they do pay some charges, but typically Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts would not be
Okay,
charged to use our
I
facility.
misread that.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Well,
I'm
please don't be
fine.
sorry, Carol.
Fine.
I'm glad I had it.
Policies are difficult. Okay, so BDA Board Organizational Meeting. Did I have a first and a second on that? I did? Okay. And all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, that takes care of policy. Other action items. Consideration to approve technology integrator.
Second.
Discussion.
It's up to me to discuss, I think, so here we go, let's discuss. I'll pass the paper around, please. And again, I apologize to board members who I know can read the paper in front, but for folks watching, my nomination for this position after going through our process would be Mark Miller. Mark Miller is a National Board Certified Teacher. He graduated cum laude from Harvard with a BA in Psychology and Social Relations. Mr. Miller also holds a Master's of Education, specializing in elementary education from Lesley College. Mark Miller would be my recommendation for this position.
See?
What's the difference between the integrator and a normal, oh, I'm sorry. What's the difference between, is this in addition to the technology team that you already have?
So we have three tech folks who work on computers, fix broken screens, things like that, setting up testing. This would be, he would also work with teachers to help improve the technology we use in the classroom, websites, additional resources to push our learning forward in our classrooms.
Thank you.
Did that answer your question?
Yep, mine's a technology question,
Okay.
but I needed that answer to know. It's not there that I need to
course.
ask it.
Maggie?
Kyle, does this replace Tammy McNulty?
Yes,
Not
it
replace,
does.
but take her
So
position?
Ms.
Replace.
McNulty, as you recall, did leave. This is that position, yes.
Brad?
What's the salary?
It would be by the teacher scale.
Same as the teacher scale?
Yes.
This is a new position, right?
No, it's, Tammy McNulty had the position, we had this position, we've advertised for this position, so no, it is not.
So where would the person start on this scale
Wherever they are by degree and years experience.
as a teacher?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? So I guess, discussion, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Nancy?
Now can I ask my technology question?
I'm glad Sue's here, but go ahead.
Oh, no, I think this ball's in your court.
Okay.
So, when I was looking at the policies, I went into the website, and on the website, if you look at, and I'm going to use terminology that's not correct, you look at the cover page, and it has one date for the policies that we took up tonight. Then you go into the policy itself, and it has a different date that we accepted it. So I guess my question is sort of, at what point will the website be up and accurate?
Sue, someone's calling me next door. So I think it has been a transition. So to say 100%, let me just be fair to us for a minute. So I'm not sure. I don't have a good answer to your question. I know that we're working at it. We do not have a specific individual who does. I'm not making an excuse. I'm just telling you the facts. I think in some districts they have a webmaster or data manager who manages it. We have a bunch of folks doing it piecemeal. I think we've gained some ground. I understand that it's not perfect. For it to be 100% accurate, I'm not sure, and I don't know if you look around the state if anybody's is 100% accurate and perfect. It's not a good answer to you. But I think we continue to gain ground. I think it's become pretty functional, so I looked for my own life, an athletic website that we have. I was able to find the schedule, print the schedule. We're gaining ground. I'd say it's a lot better than it was in August, but we have our high school principal here, our curriculum coordinator here. They might have better answers from their own school / curriculum perspective about our website, but I'd say we're gaining till it's something that this board thinks is great. I don't have a good answer.
Well, another interesting thing is that on the district homepage, it has the middle school athletics, but it doesn't have the high school. So does the person, and I guess what I'm trying to say to the public is, if you cannot interpret what it is, please call
Absolutely.
the district and to get the answer that you need.
I can answer the thing with the athletics, the middle school basketball, because I was looking for the high school basketball schedule, and I noticed what you did. But Carrie Sawyer was at a scheduling meeting just yesterday, so the high school basketball schedule is going to be posted by the end of this week, and then I think that will be there as well. It's just not done yet.
Okay, well, it's just
I'm glad you're here, Mr. Wolf. All right.
a little heads up for the community.
Maggie?
So,
I guess this is technology too, and I just happened to think of it. Now, Miss McNulty taught, like, for instance, 8th graders. Will Mark Miller teach? And then we had another man that came in, but he didn't stay very long.
No, so Mark Miller, when we filled that role on a temporary basis, on a class-by-class basis, we're going to have Mark focus on some of these things, state data, data managing, and working with our teachers to improve instruction.
So who will be teaching, for instance, the 8th graders?
Yes, we have a lady named Miss Constance right
Okay.
now.
So, I think that's, any other questions?
Can I motion to return to talking about the curriculum report, the PSAT?
Is that okay with you?
Sure,
Go ahead. Do you have
Okay.
another question on that, Kyle?
So just before you go,
Yeah, I just have
Kyle,
another
are we
question.
finished technology?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry, thank you.
So I think my concern is that, so you said that the NWA results kind of bottom off after 9.
The norm does. Our
norm.
results haven't, but it's when, how do we compare how we're doing? We look like we are off the charts, doing incredibly well. And then when our students take the PSAT, unfortunately, we don't see the same results. So we want to make sure that we're not thinking as freshmen, you're doing incredibly well, when in fact there's something we should be doing differently in our education. And then as a junior, when they take the SAT and we compare it to the state, we're falling a little below the expectations.
An additional question?
Yeah.
Okay, so I was just wondering, I'm concerned that the PSAT is going to be the only way we're measuring student growth, because in my experience with the PSAT and like doing prep for it and paying for prep for it, much of the PSAT is gaming the PSAT and gaming the questions. So you recognize a certain question, you recognize, and the College Board, teaches people how to, they taught my tutors, and my tutors taught me how to answer the questions properly. Not based off of accurate knowledge, but based off of, this is what the question looks like, ideally you can pick between these two answers. So my concern is that I was wondering how you feel about that in terms of student growth. As it compares, because what you're going to see is you're going to see growth in terms of the SAT, but that doesn't necessarily mean that students are growing as a whole, because they might just be getting more used to the SAT.
Yeah. You are 1,000% right, except at the state, and what they publish in the Portland Press Herald is how's Sacopee Valley doing on the SAT. They don't look at our NWA results. They don't look at the successes that our students have. They don't look at what you do in your classroom performance. They publish, here's Sacopee Valley, and here's the state average. So one of the benefits, absolutely, you are 1,000% correct on everything you said, and that's why I started my statement with, the more times you take the SAT, the better you get. And that's one of the reasons we're looking at it. But I am absolutely sincere when I say we're calling it a pilot. We're still doing the NWEA this year, and we're trying out the PSAT, because what you've said is it's not intended to show student growth. It's really meant for another measure. It's meant to say if you're prepared for college and you're going to be a successful college student. And that's not for everybody. But it's something we wanted to explore to see if it would give us better results and if it helps students be better prepared for the SAT. So But I'm happy and we can look at those results. You certainly from an aggregate level, if you want to be like, hey, how did the sophomore class do? That's something we always share with the school board. You certainly would be happy to share with you and Belle, and we could look at it and keep you posted on how it's going. So I appreciate your concern. I absolutely never want to do anything that doesn't represent our students well and isn't beneficial.
Thank you.
Sure.
Nancy?
Would you say that learning the language of a test, which is what you're referring to, learning the language of a test helps you? One of the things, as you have done the NWEA for an extended period of time, you have picked up the verbiage that they use, how their questions are structured. And I think that that's when you look at the SATs, yes, they do teach you, but what they're doing is they're doing this, they're giving you a shortened version of what you've done long-term with NWEA, because you have learned how to take NWEA, because you've had it for how many years? Probably, 6, 7? Yeah. So as you do those, you start to understand the structure of the question and all those things. And would you agree with that?
I would. Absolutely agree with that.
So I guess that's what the process is trying, and I know it's not answering your question, but that's a part of the rationale, I would guess.
Okay, any other discussion? All right. Consideration to enter an executive session to discuss a personnel matter pursuant to 1 MRSA, Section 4056F. Moved by John, seconded by Diane. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. We will go into executive.